This is part 2 of instruction number 5 from video 8 of the Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection 3. Now, I was speaking about taking what we're doing and putting it into other music we're playing, whether they're exercises or excerpts, and seeing what else we discover, not only about the piece, but also about breaking out of ruts that we might be in this, from this perspective of the personal art, but also with trying to find ways of playing it how we actually feel it, finding our own interpretation. And it's okay to do that. So we have the standard, what people think is the standard orchestral formula of playing it. But once in a while, why don't we just play it like the way we feel it? And I'll tell you what's interesting to do is go to YouTube, find some pieces that you like, and you'll see different renditions of it. Where this is really, really clear is finding popular artists that record tunes like Moon River. Many different people, they can't live without, Andy Williams' rendition of Moon River, but there's other people that have recorded it. And the same thing, I was looking through some 50s things, and sometimes I like to listen to those. It reminds me of, my parents, so I like to listen and go there, kind of time travel with it. But it's very interesting because I'll have my favorite rendition, which is usually the one I got used to listening to. Okay? But then I'll listen to some other people's. And we're not just talking about a slight change of tempo, like in classical literature, even though those can be very, very significant in their differences. But we're talking about, really different proportions and really a whole new arrangement. And even if it's the same arrangement, the timbres, the inflections, all these things will be different because those artists have found something in that song that resonates to them personally. Yes, they also might be doing it because it's a popular song and people want to hear it. But there's a personal element, I think, to many of the people who decide to record another popular artist's song. So why don't we do that once in a while? Discovering maybe our different rendition. What if we're feeling sad or a little bit blue, but we still feel like playing the Hungarian March? Have you ever played it kind of sad? Kind of run down? Kind of lonely? Now, that's not going to help you win the audition if you play it like that on stage, okay? But it might do something on another level of finding your personal art, letting your feelings speak, letting something be expressed through you that maybe needs to come out, that's felt the restrictions and the constrictions of having to do it only one way. And having done that, there might be a release of tension and a certain freedom. So maybe then you can go back and play it freer. Not void of tempo, void of, the right style, but just freer in yourself and maybe have a fresh outlook because you've seen that same thing from different angles. So now we're starting to see how breaking out of a rut is very important for a personal art and for the integration of having things be more personal, but then still trying to play it within the standardized way that people expect us to play it for professional circumstances. This territory, I ask myself, how early on should someone start thinking about this? I think that depends on the skill of the teacher. If the teacher has developed some of their own personal art, coming from their own love and passion, they might be able to transfer some of those feelings and insights naturally through their teaching, through their students. If a teacher's main objective is to want their students to only go for a certain kind of job, that might limit that. And people say, well, that's your time to do your solos on. Well, I'll tell you something. I've known many people have come to me for a little added assistance to try to take off that, what can be a hard wiring in oneself about having to play things this one way. And then when I say forget about that one way and just let it go, that one thing doesn't want to go away. So this is a way to start melting that down, being in touch with your own personal art. It's one thing to have the skill, and it is a skill. And if you want to be a professional, you need to do these arbans, these coprash, these basic things, because what are they doing? They're setting the stage for you to have that same control and command when you play the orchestral literature. But there's one thing, learning to be a key on the orchestral keyboard. It's another thing to realize that you were a key in humanity, that you were a unique human being, and there's billions of human beings, and if you want to think about the scope of how many human beings have been on this planet, you can start to feel like a really teeny key on a really big keyboard. But you know what? You're no less important. Now, that has to be balanced, because sometimes people can take what I say and avoid other kinds of discipline. I'm not saying that. I have a very sophisticated, very detailed, very regimented warm-up. My attitude is allowing. But I stick to certain things. And so this personal art is part of the balance. There's some people who come from the personal art, then when they have to kind of get more discipline, they think, oh, they've built this personal relationship, let's say with symphonic music. And then they want to go to be in an orchestra. But then they realize there's all this other stuff they have to do to prepare themselves for what actually that job is. It's difficult. That all of a sudden they feel like they're in a coffin. And this is the skill of the teacher. To balance that allowance against the criteria called for. And it's the same in going after your personal art, but it has to start with more allowance. You know why? Because you might come across a lot of resistance in yourself. Things to think on.